Check audio 1 2 1 2.
Hey guys, happy Friday. It's me. Hope everybody had a great week. We had a good week here. Our Amber is doing much better and seems to be improving every day. So that's a good sign for me. I'm happy about her progress and just glad that she's doing better. And hope everybody is getting out and doing things with the family for the summer. It just seems to be flying by so fast. I'm not real happy about that. It needs to slow down because it's just going by way too fast for me. And I hope you guys are doing things for yourselves because that's probably the most important thing you can do when you have somebody that is struggling with substance use. You put everything on the back burner for everything and everyone, and you forget about your own, health, your own strength. You stop seeing friends, you stop doing the things that you enjoy, and you need to make sure that these are the things that you're doing and enjoying because you can get so lost. And unfortunately, a lot of times you can also end up just not being able to get back to learning how to take care of yourself and do things for yourself. So it's just so important that you do that kind of stuff for yourself so that when your loved one is ready to get well and start doing the things that is used to enjoy as a family, you can get back to that. You can start doing things and enjoying just life in general and be strong enough to do it. That's so important. And if you guys are out there, you're struggling, you need help with anything, you just need somebody to talk to, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here. I'm always available to talk to. Just know I'm here and available at any time. So with that, I hope you guys are finding support for yourself if you're not reaching out to anyone, or finding the strength that you need. I hope that you're at least getting to meetings, whether it's Nar-Anon, Al-Anon, Smart Recovery, AA, NA, CA, all the A's, because the support is the most important thing that you're going to need while your loved one is struggling. It's also very important to try and stay connected afterwards when they are doing recovery and they're doing the right things, because we all know that relapse is part of the process. Not saying you should let it take over your life. I'm just saying, stay connected. If you have the literature that you've received, keep reading it, keep up on it, so that when you are living in that kind of cloud that you're waiting for the shoe to drop because of several relapses, you have that strength to get back and do what you need to do to get stronger and healthier. So tonight is show 120. We're going to continue on with the Smart Recovery Family and Friends book. I'm going to continue doing it until we reach the end. I think it's 24 chapters, sections. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it's not 24. Maybe it's 14. It's 14 sections. We're on number 6 today. Section 6, it's positive communication, which is pretty much what we've been talking about lately, because that is the most important thing to do with our loved ones. Is, we always have the tendency to be screaming and hollering and ranting and raving, and it's not getting through to them. It's not going to get through to them. It's not going to make a difference when you're screaming at them and demanding that they do things the way you want them to be done. It's important to remember that, and it's important for you to just stay in control of yourself, because we have a tendency to just get so aggravated and angry and frustrated, and it doesn't come out the way you want it to. So just keep that in mind. So with that, I'm going to go start right with section 6, positive communication. Are you having problems talking to your loved one in a way that is nurturing and beneficial to you both? When relationships are troubled, and many relationships where addiction is involved are troubled, there are some predictable ways that communication styles deteriorate. These changes happen in all areas of communication, not just in our communication about the addiction. Typically, in troubled relationships, both parties begin to favor negative comments rather than positive comments. They converse in terms of you statements rather than I statements, and they tend to disregard each other's point of view. Finally, both parties stop sharing responsibility for the situation and begin blaming each other. These ineffective communication styles can be changed. The Get Your Loved One Sober is about changing the relationship with your loved one, and communication is key to doing that, and that is so important. Learning to communicate in a positive way and learning to listen to your loved one in an effective way are skills that can lead to an improved relationship and the possibility of collaboration versus confrontation. And I say that all the time. That's one of the biggest things we can do when our loved ones are struggling, is to change our communication and be positive, because we always have the tendency to point out the negative, and being against their choices, and that's their choices, and that's very hard for us to understand, and it's very hard for us to make sense of it, because if you're a parent or a spouse or even a friend, and you've lived through some of this and made some mistakes, they were your mistakes to learn from, and that other person may not be ready for that. They, again, I always say it, won't happen to me. I'm smarter than that. So we always have to keep that in mind and keep that in the back of our heads. So here is a list of communication styles. Generally speaking, communication can be characterized by 4 different styles. Which one do you most frequently use to deal with conflicts in your relationships? Passive communication, not standing up for your rights, not setting limits or boundaries on another's behavior, continually putting others' needs before your own, taking on the role of martyr, not being able to say no, aggressive communication, bullying and intimidating others to get what you want, threatening people, ignoring the needs and rights of others, shouting, yelling, screaming, or physically abusing others, passive aggressive, communication. Indirectly communicating, for example, slamming doors, giving the silent treatment, saying something that is designed for your loved one to hear without saying it to her directly or him. Using sarcasm put downs, using humor to be nasty or hurtful. Assertive communication, being direct and honest, being able to negotiate, have a sense of give and take. Asking for your own needs to be met while respecting the needs of others. Being able to say no and set limits. Being able to acknowledge when you are in the wrong. And that happens a lot, especially, when they're living at home with you. We can't run our households like a recovery house, because it's family, it's your spouse, it's, your relative, it's your friend. We can't live that way because we're all living a life that we've all lived together before. And it's so different when they come out of rehab and then they go into a recovery house. A recovery house can set their rules, set their limits, and set their boundaries. And we can try to do that at home, but that's not going to happen. It's not going to take place because they know what buttons to push. They know what boundaries they can cross over. They know how to manipulate the situation. So keep that in mind if you decide to bring your loved one home before they find that continued treatment in out of recovery. So you can make up as many contracts as you want. You can put as many chore boards around the house that you want. You can ask as many times as you want. You can scream at the top of your head. You can write it on a piece of paper. It doesn't really matter. It just, they know how to manipulate the situation. And recovery house, they're very strict on as long as it's the right recovery house and they're running it properly. If you're not doing your chores, you're not pulling your weight, you're not doing what you need to do, you're out. Like, that's it. You're done. So, that's the difference of going back home. And for spouses, it's difficult because, they've already been gone for 28 days, 30 days, 90 days. And, unless the spouse that is at home trying to pay the bills and get the chores done, take care of children, take care of other family members, that can be a really, really stressful task for them without the support of their loved one, because they've chosen to take that additional step because they have been relapsing too much. And going into a recovery house is not only putting a more financial strain on the household in the marriage, but it can affect that recovery process. And that is a really hard thing to get past. When it's your child, it's a lot different because you're not responsible for their bills. You're not responsible for their legal consequences. These are things that they can actually work towards getting out of. So that is so important that we keep that in mind. But here's some positive communication. Four important areas of interpersonal communication are often abandoned when relationships run into hard times. Both parties tend to stop using statements that are positive. Begin with I, express understanding and demonstrate a willingness to share responsibility for the situation. The acronym PIUS can be used to help remember how to get our communication back on track. Be positive. Include positive comments in your conversation and avoid negative comments. This not only helps the listener, but also helps you remember that you do appreciate something about the other person. Think of something that you really like about them, or just tell them you love them. Become conscious of those things that you tend to communicate in a negative way and reframe them using positive phrases. For example, say what you want, not what you don't want. Use I statements. The I statement is one of the best communication tools that we have. It helps us to speak to another person in a way that communicates our needs or wishes without blaming or criticizing the other person. When others feel blamed or criticized, they usually become defensive. So here's some examples of some of those situations. I feel when you communicate your feelings, you have a choice. Blaming your loved one, example, you make me mad. You always make me sad. Will put your loved one on the defensive. Accept responsibility for your feelings when communicating with your loved one. Example, when you drink, I feel sad or worried. I want. Let your loved one know what you would like from him in place of a current behavior. Make your request reasonable and something your loved one can actually do. Example, I would like it if you could call me if you will be late for dinner. I would like it if you could spend time together going to the movies or out to eat. And they are positive statements. Hopefully when you're using those examples, it's best that they are in a sober frame, because if they are not, it can be taken in a different tone and can be heard differently. So that's important also. Be understanding. Show your loved one that you care about her and respect her enough to try to understand her point of view. Even if you do not agree with it, listen to her. Really listen. Ask questions. Reflect back what you hear in a non-judgmental tone. Understanding your loved one's point of view will make it easier for you to find some common ground. When you show that you are trying to understand something about another person, they are more likely to accept that you have something important to share with them. Accept and share responsibility. Neither of you is perfect. Understanding and acknowledging your part in the problem goes a long way in breaking out of the pattern of conflict. The way you talk to your loved one not only reflects how you feel about him, but also sets the tone for his reactions to you. And that is out of Get Your Loved One Sober book. So here's an example that they share for I statements. You and your buddies made a mess of this place. And taking it into a positive statement is, I'm glad your friends like coming here. Could you help me keep it tidy so it looks good for company? And that's important, that we really think when we're stewing, if we can really put that down and before we start to react, and see the different ways that we can change that conversation. And there's other statements, but it's more of a worksheet. So if you are interested and you like what you're hearing so far in these last 6 chapters, you can go to smartrecovery.org. You're going to go to resources, the little 3 lines. Look for resources and look for store. You can purchase the book there, the workbook. You can also watch videos of different meetings that they have videoed. And you can also get some worksheets. It's just very interesting how you can take these different tools and turn them into a positive response, which I suck at. So, do as I say, not as I do. But communication tips. Plan ahead. Think about what you want to say and how you are going to say it. Choose the right time. That is, when you both have time, are feeling calm, it is likely that your loved one can be receptive. Note, it's best to avoid communicating something important to someone who is intoxicated. In those situations, keep conversations to a minimum. That is so very true, because quite frankly, if they are intoxicated, they're not listening. They just hear that Charlie Brown blah 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 blah. So don't try not to be combative. Just find a way to remove yourself from the situation and not engage in it. Be brief and stick to the subject. Your loved one will be more likely to stay in the conversation. Bringing up old situations and disagreements is likely to result in your loved one becoming defensive about the past. And bringing up the past only gets people pissed off again. We have to learn to move forward and make better choices and decisions. And bringing up the past is just not helping in, learning that trust process. So be careful and remember, they're trying hard to remove themselves from the past and move forward with their future. And that can be really trying when, the past is being thrown in their face constantly. And being more compassionate and sharing your how much you care and how much you want to see them succeed, and pulling out all the positive you can in those situations will help them move forward. Number 4, be specific. Target specific behaviors rather than making generalizations. Generalizations are likely to make your loved one feel blamed or judged. Example, it seems like you get drunk every weekend. Maintain a calm voice. Be positive. Use I statements. Be understanding. Accept and share responsibility. And that is the PIUS on your communication tips. There is no point in trying to have a rational conversation with someone whose brain is under the influence of drugs. And again, that's for Get Your Loved One Sober book, it's a really good book. It is a really good book to read. It can be a little difficult if your loved one's drug of choice is a substance, which is, a drug, because it is geared towards alcoholics. So it's a matter of changing that word alcoholic or alcohol into just substance, because whether you're using a drug or alcohol, they are all mind altering substances. So that's how I chose to read the book. And it does really help understand different ways that we can talk to our loved ones and change the conversations and keep the conversations going, and just helps gear them towards the recovery process. Because if we're blaming and insulting and bringing up the past, they're not going to want to move forward in that process. So planning a conversation using PIUS. What specific behavior do I want to address? So that's the first thing that you're going to either put into your head or even write it down, because in black and white it makes more sense. When would be a good time for this conversation? So remember, when they are in a better mood, they're not intoxicated or high, and keep it positive. Make sure that any statements that you're giving them is a positive statement. And remember to keep it to I statements. I, we, me is the one thing that doesn't show that you're attacking them. Understanding. Listen, ask questions, reflect back what you hear. That is such a cool tool to have, because a lot of times you'll be having a conversation, and this is what I have been hearing from people that were struggling, that when you're sitting there and you're having a conversation with them, and sometimes the conversations are ridiculous, when you repeat back to them what you just said, they can hear what they just said. And sometimes that can trigger some emotion and some anger. So stop that conversation. Just say, listen, I hear what you're saying. Repeat back what they said. I understand where you're coming from. Let me think about it, and we can revisit that question. So keep it going so that they hear what they said. And if you have to take your corners or take a walk and think about what they said, they might be in tune to hear what they said and come up with their own solution, or even be able to help with that boundary. Boundaries are important, but giving a little bit of wiggle room in a boundary so they feel like they're part of that resolution is a very, very cool tool. So keep that in mind as well. Accept and share responsibility. And that's something that a lot of people do not do. Is accept what part they play in the situation. And, play it out. This is what you're pissed off at. This is what's making you angry. What did I do to keep it going in that situation? Is there something I did that could have changed that situation? It's not about blaming yourself. It's about acknowledging what part you played and how you can change that. So keep that in mind. End with a positive statement. Always end with positivity and encouragement. You know, there's, especially in this disease, there's so much judgment and there's so much fear. So end it with positive, and continue with positive, because you know they already are angry with themselves. They hate themselves. They're depressed because of what they're doing to you. They may not always realize it. They may look at it as, I'm not doing it to them, I'm doing it to me. And they don't see the part the family has in this. They don't see the part the family deals with. You know, giving up so much trying to help our loved ones get better can be really difficult for our loved one who is actively using, and even in early recovery. They have to work on themselves and what parts they play in all of this, as well as we have to sit back and look at where we were, look at what parts we played, and hope that we can all come to an understanding and, you know, hopefully, you know, make things better and help them move forward into that recovery process, because that's very important. Our next section is listening. When you are communicating with someone who is rigidly holding on to their point of view, you gain nothing by disagreeing. More importantly, when you disagree and try to force the other person to accept your point of view, the other person often shuts down. You know, a lot of times we don't listen because, you know, we know better than them. We know, we've lived it, we've done it, we've seen it, and we forget that, you know, this is somebody that may not have lived it, that not realizing they are making poor choices. So keep that in mind, to listen and really hear what they're saying. And you know, it's not, you know, horrible to, you know, throw in a suggestion, as long as you're throwing it in a positive manner. Listen in order to disarm. Although we hear their words, quite often we aren't really listening to our loved one. Instead, we are busy with reacting, judging, providing solutions, and disagreeing. That's something that we have to really look at, because that is so very true. Effective listening requires two things. First, we must gain a clear understanding of our loved one's point of view. Second, we must convey that understanding back to our loved one. Listening with genuine concern and respect, using open-ended questions and reflective listening is the key to opening the way for our loved ones to care about our opinions, so that we can find ways to partner together to solve problems. And I see a comment up there, and I don't have my iPad, and I don't have my chat screen here. Maybe Richard can help that, because I can't see over there. Live chat? Nope.
It says Margie's looking to help a friend now with 102 days clean, find mental health resources because they are telling her months out for a wait.
What was the end of that? Or telling?
It's telling her it's going to be months.
And unfortunately, that's very sad, because that is unfortunate. Finding first somebody that takes insurance in that particular field. finding somebody that is available. The only thing you can do is call the back of the card, their insurance card, and see if they have anybody that specializes in that field that also caters to substance use disorder. So if it's a family counselor or, just a counselor or a therapist, make sure when you're looking for somebody that is dealing with substance use disorder, because a lot of times they will find that your mental situation is caused by the drug of choice and not the mental situation. So, unless they have been diagnosed previous to substance use, they're going to find that they're going to first see, is it actually a mental issue, or is it the drug that is causing this. So I'm getting a message, so bear with me. So just keep that in mind as well. So just remember that. I do have a person, they are in Willow Grove, you can reach out to, and they may be able to assist in that. There are several different types of therapists there, so I will give you that information. You can go on my Living Hopeful page and look for the photos, and you'll see a thing for Insight. I highly suggest checking them out, and they may be able to fit them in. Emphasize in order to befriend. When we can master the skills of non-judgmental listening, our loved one feels understood, respected, and more trusting. When we can demonstrate that we understand his/her point of view and how he feels about his situation, there is nothing to argue about, and our loved one becomes less defensive and more open to hearing our perspective. So, the first step is to stop arguing and start listening to your loved one in a way that leaves him feeling that his point of view, including his rationale for any addictive behaviors, is being respected. You don't have to agree with his reality, the realness of his experience, but you do need to listen to it and generally respect it. And there's no reason why we can't just say, I hear what you're saying, and I'm trying to understand the situation, and I've never been through that, but there are other people that have been in that situation that you might find in meetings or therapy. That could be something that will help you through that particular area. To do this, you will have to drop your agenda. Listen with only one goal: to emphasize with your loved one's point of view and reflect your understanding back to them. And just start by I don't understand it. I wish I did. And, maybe bring out a situation that you may have been involved in the past, and share how you resolved it, or share with them truthfully, it was something that was never resolved for me. And now that you are going through that, I'm going to try and find a way for me to resolve that situation. And hopefully, you can find that resolution as well. When you feel empathy, and convey it, your loved one will very likely feel understood and respected. Whenever you convey that you understand how your loved one is feeling, his or her defensiveness will decrease, and his or her openness to your opinion will increase. The best listening skill is to be non judgmental. When you judge someone when they're talking and the other person often shuts down, non judgmental listening gives the other person a sense of freedom and acceptance. And, I can't say that enough. How much better your communication can become when you go through this and learn these tools. These are tools that are not going to be learned tonight, overnight, or without practice. And practicing them with all aspects of your life is where you're going to get the strength to continue on and build that with your loved ones. It depends. It depends on how long they've been using. Margie says 102 days. Wouldn't the drug be out of their system, though? You have to realize it takes 120 days for your mind to start to change. So that's why they say, like, continued care. Whether you're in transitional living, whether you're in a recovery house, when you're in recovery, you wake up, you make your bed, you go to breakfast, you go back, you get your stuff, you go to a group meeting, you go with a counselor, you go with a therapist, you and it's every day. You do a lecture like every day. It's lunch, then free time, then it's back to a group meeting, a lecture, a speaker, one-on-one counseling. And this is throughout the day, and it's every day. It's the same ritual every day. It's redundancy that helps the person's mind changes. 28 days is not enough. 28 days is just getting you clear of the substance, depending on the substance and how long it has been used, how long you have been using it, and how much will depend on how long it will take to come out of your system. But it's going to take you 120 days of doing the same exact thing every day and moving forward. That's why they say 90 meetings in 90 days. Keeping that redundancy going and helping you change your mindset is how you keep going. And that's why they call, like, your AA, NA, CA, and all A's, a WE program, because it takes everybody to get us through each day. And that's the most important thing, is to having those phone numbers, having connections in meetings, sitting in the front seat, on the front seats, raising your hand, asking the questions, and asking for the suggestions. That does not mean you have to take the suggestions that they are giving you. That simply means take the suggestion that you feel will most help you in your moving forward. You take that suggestion, it doesn't work, then use the next suggestion. And that's what it's about. It's about hearing suggestions from people that are going through the same thing that you are. May not be your same story, but it may be something that you liked hearing and you like to see where they went with it and how well they're doing with it. And that's the most important process. Today, 120 days probably isn't even enough with the drugs that are out there today. And finding that 120-day program, because 28 days you're out of treatment, you're now into a recovery house, or you are back to the people, places, and things. You come back to the people, places, and things, and if you continue to stay with that people, places, and things, the possibility of relapse is like inevitable. Learning the tools and taking them with you from rehab and learning how to live that lifestyle. Learn how to raise your hand, reach out, pick up the phone when life starts taking a crap on you, is how you're going to keep moving forward, how you're going to keep doing the right thing. Not picking up that phone, not reaching out to somebody, not attending meetings will just keep you where you are, stuck in the rut. And that pink cloud gets purple and that pink cloud gets black. And when that happens, relapse starts to moving in and becomes inevitable. So remember that. There's just so many levels to recovery, but staying connected. And even if you are on a MAT program, a medically assisted treatment, that connection in meetings. And yes, you're going to say, well, we can't do meetings because they don't accept MAT program and blah, 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 blah. Nobody has to know you're on a MAT program. That's yours to share. And if you're strong enough to be, put down because you're on MAT, then, so be it. If you're not, then you don't have to, release that information. You can just let them know that you are there looking for support, looking for the help that is detrimental to recovery. And, listening to the people that are positive, listening to the people that are moving forward, listening to the people that want recovery and want it for the rest of their lives. Sorry about that. A lot of times, you start to just go back. The further you sit away from that front seat, the further you're hearing what they're saying. So keep that in mind as well. Let's see. And here's some open-ended questions. Asking open-ended question invites elaboration and thinking more deeply about an issue. It is a helpful skill for gaining insight into your loved one's point of view. Open-ended questions cannot be answered with a single word, yes, no, or short phrase. Examples of open and closed questions. Would you like pasta for dinner? That would be a closed conversation. Won't you tell me about your trip? That's open. It's asking for information. Change the following questions from close-ended to open-ended questions. Closed question, so you didn't like that, huh? No, that's, your open-ended version would be, so you didn't like that, huh? What didn't you like about it? Closed question, nice weather we're having, isn't it? Your open-ended version. Nice weather we're having, isn't it? What are you going to do to enjoy it? Closed question. Did you have a good day? Your open-ended version. Did you have a good day? What was so good about it? What made it a good day? Closed question. Are you tired? Open-ended version. Are you tired? What made you so tired today? Closed question. Don't you think it would be better if you did your homework first? Your open-ended version. It's probably best to do your homework first. That way you have free time for the rest of the night. So they're just some examples of open-ended questions. A lot of times we're, coming into a room like, hey, how was your day? Good. We're just trying to start conversation, and then it ends, and then we're so inept to just allow that to stop when, we could start, expanding more and expressing more interest in it. Reflective listening turns down the volume on everyone's anger, builds trust, and mends fences. The reason is that you listen with only one goal: to understand the other person's point of view and reflect your understanding back to them. You don't comment on what he just said. You don't point out ways in which you think he's wrong. You don't judge or react in any way. It sounds easy, but it is a skill that doesn't come naturally to most people. To succeed, you will need to learn to really listen and not react to what your loved one feels, wants, and believes. Then, after you think you understand what you were told, you will need to reflect back in your own words, your understanding of what you just heard. The trick is to do this without commenting, disagreeing, or arguing. And here is your exercise, thinking reflectively. In this exercise, assume the role of the curious listener. Respond to the speaker's statement with as many questions as you can, using the format, do you mean that? Example, speaker. One thing I like about myself is that I am organized. Listener. Do you mean that you keep your desk tidy? Speaker. No. Listener. Do you mean that you manage your time well? Speaker. Yes. Listener. Do you mean that you always know where to find things? Speaker. No. Speaker. If a relative of mine had permission to brag about me, she would say that I'm good with my hands. The listener responds to the speaker by asking, do you mean you? And they ask you to try and come up with at least 5 closed questions. So that is just an exercise on that one. Exercise forming reflections. This exercise develops your skill in making reflective statements. The questions asked in the last exercise are very close to reflective listening, but not quite. The process of generating reflective statements is the same as in the prior exercise. The listener makes a guess about the speaker's meaning and offers this to the speaker for response. This involves reflecting back what was said along with the listener's best guess at the speaker's feelings about what was said. With reflective statements, the listener reflects back to the speaker using statements rather than questions. In this exercise, the listener, you, will offer a hypothesis about what the speaker means. The hypothesis is in the form of a statement rather than a question. Difference in inflection at the end of the sentence. A good reflective listening response is a statement. Its inflection turns down at the end. Example: you're angry about what I said, up, versus you're angry about what I said, down. It may feel strange to make a statement instead of asking a question. For example, it may feel presumptuous, as if you are telling the person what she feels. Yet statements usually work better in conveying understanding and empathy. You may find it helpful to have some words to get you started in making reflective listening statements. The common element is the word you. Man, I feel like I just missed a month of, I think, class. You probably did, Eric. Example: so you feel. It sounds like you. You're wondering if. You. Using the suggested starter phrases above, practice your reflective listening skills in the following scenarios. If this is something that you are interested in, again, go to smartrecovery.org, look up resources, and go to the book you can purchase, or look at some of the worksheets that may help you with that. There are additional resources. Compassionate attitude: to reinforce a compassionate attitude with your attention geared to the other person, tell yourself, step 1, just like me, this person is seeking happiness in his or her life. Step 2, just like me, this person is trying to avoid suffering in his or her life. Step 3, just like me, this person has known sadness, loneliness, and despair. 4, just like me, this person is seeking to fill his or her needs. Step 5, just like me, this person is learning about life. From the book, I'm right, you're wrong, now what? So if the person you are arguing with accuses you of not listening or not understanding them, they're right. Reflective listening is empathy, our key for the other person to feel heard. You will not win based on the strength of your argument, but on the strength of your relationship. So that is chapter 6. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and take a picture of those exercises, and put it on my page if I can. If not, you can go to smartrecovery.org. So how's everybody doing out there? Anybody struggling? Anybody want to pop in some comments and share with us what's going on, and maybe get some suggestions from me, from anybody that's listening in the comments? We're here and we're listening. I hope that this is helping somebody, everybody. I really enjoyed doing this course, and Beyond Addiction, it's pretty much the same, and it pretty much helps you learn how to conversate with your person, with anybody in your life. It doesn't matter if it's somebody that is struggling with substance use or not. It's very helpful. A shout out to Larry. I hope everything is going okay. He is in the process, if not already, headed out to his vacation with all of his family. He is taking his children on a trip through Canada by train. And, that is what he got back in his recovery. He went years without, his children in his life because of his addiction. And today they're back in his life. He's enjoying their company. They're doing things together, which he never thought would be possible. And I say, recovery works if you work it, and he is living proof of that situation. I can't wait to hear from him and see how it's going. I'm hoping I can message him throughout his trip and make sure everything's going smoothly for him, and he's enjoying it, because last year he was supposed to do this trip, and because of COVID, his son had gone out and ended up getting COVID, and they canceled the trip. So this is their makeup trip. So hopefully everything goes smooth for him. And the neatest thing is he does a lot of online meetings. So he will be heading out to see somebody that he met on online Zoom meetings, and they're going to show him around a little bit. So that's so cool. Like, the Zoom meetings are really cool, that you can go to a Zoom meeting in a whole different country. I'm guessing you can understand what they're saying. I don't know. But that's just such a cool thing. I just think it's neat that you can do that. And I think it's really cool. I have, talked to a lot of people that people have sent my way. And some of them are coming out to our family group meeting, and I'm meeting them in person. And it's just really cool to put a face with the person, and just go out and talk without mentioning our loved one. That's so awesome. And seeing that growth from desperate and despair to hopefulness, that is what I love to see. That's why I do what I do. I love to see somebody that was where I was grow, get educated, and learn how to take care of themselves, and be there for their loved one without enabling the situation to keep them stuck in that substance use. So it really helps both parties, whether you are somebody that is struggling with substance use, whether you're the family member or friend that is struggling with somebody, that you have options and support out there. When this first occurred to us, we had no idea where to turn. We had no idea who could help us. We had no idea how to help our loved one. And that's what we were looking for. We went out to look for, how do we help? How do we fix this? How do we cure this? And, what part have we played in it? What part, should I have done better? And it took a lot of years for us to get to that point. I am still a work in progress. I will always be a work in progress. The drugs are getting worse. The recovery process, there's so many different avenues. There's so many different recovery medications that, either keep you comfortable and stable, so you're not going out to use the illegal substance, There's also the blockers that have a tendency to block that euphoric feeling. So you're not going out to, you know, find a fix, because why put out the money to something you're not feeling? Unfortunately, with that, some people do find that they change their drug of choice to get that euphoric feeling. And I just say they just aren't ready. If they're trying to bypass that, they're just not ready for that process yet. So, you know, it's up to them to make those choices. It's up to them to take that step and to become a better person. Not that they're not a good person, they're just making poor choices because their mind has been altered. And when you have the mind altering substances in you, you know, all of the things that you said you would never do that you're now doing because you have to get that drug. It's just so you're not feeling sick anymore. So, these are just some of the things that, you know, you learn when you go to these meetings, and you learn of different things that are available out there. You learn different tools to help you get through that, whether it's a book, an event coming up, or, you know, talking to somebody that's been through it. That's the most important thing, is to keep, you know, going back and learning new things. I learn new things all the time. And just with life itself and the different things that are going on in everybody's life, we have to be prepared to, you know, look for the changes, look for the support. You know, that's, I can't say that enough. The support is everything. And it's just so hard because you just don't know where to go. And I know when I first started on this journey, they said, okay, go here. So I went there. I didn't like the meeting. I didn't like the way they did it. So, you know, I want to be able to vent. I want to be able to hear suggestions from other people. I may not like to hear some of the things that they're saying when I first started in on this process, on this journey for myself. I didn't like hearing what I was hearing. I thought they were all crazy. And going back over and over and over again, you kind of listen and you kind of hear what they're saying, and what they're saying is not what you're hearing. So you learn how to move through that process. And that is the one thing that I do make sure to express when we have newcomers come into our meetings. And I know it's almost, we only have like 15 minutes left, but I'm going to plug our dance coming up on July 29th. It is a luau theme. It is at Georgine's. It is in Bristol, Pennsylvania. It will be a sober dance, dinner, fellowship, friendship, family, and those in recovery will be there. It is so amazing to see so many people come together that aren't drinking or drugging and having a great time. And if you can't make it but you want to support it, you can contact me. If you would like to do a basket, if you would like to offer a service to raffle off, anything that can help us you know, raise money for the people that are in recovery. That's what it's about. You know, it's about, we started it just to get out together and have fun. And if we made a couple bucks, that's what we wanted it to be for. We wanted it to be for supporting those in early recovery. So if you want to do that, please let me know. If you want to donate tickets, the tickets are $40 a person, and we did have to hire that due to food costs. The price has gone up pretty drastic, so we're trying to keep it, as low as we possibly can, so that we can all come together and have fun. And with that being said, early recovery, they don't have the money to attend. So if you want to donate a ticket to the dance, you can. Anybody that is, unable to go because of the price of the ticket, hopefully we will have a nice amount of tickets to be able to get those in early recovery out on the dance floor and fill their bellies with amazing food. Their food is outstanding. So we had our family support meeting this past Wednesday with Bob Matthews at the Live and Grin Ben Salem campus, and always a great meeting. We have the last 2 weeks, our last second meeting of the month have had Gamblers Anonymous and Gam-Anon speakers come in and talk about the addiction of gambling, which is getting really bad now that every ad on the television is get your lottery tickets or casinos, or the phones now, you can gamble right on your phone. So it's getting really really bad, and Live and Grin has a gambling addiction outpatient service. So that's great. Look for others in the community as well if you or a loved one have an issue with gambling, and that is something that does occur often. It's either coincides with addiction, drinking and drugging, but it also can lead to, recovery from alcohol or drugs and turn into a gambling disorder. So, it's all the same thing. It's just you lose everything through financial despair versus buying the substance to cover whatever void you may be trying to cover. So, you just never know. It's hard to see because there's no staggering, there's no, slurring of the words. You just notice it by never having any money, always borrowing money. And the gambling addict has a tendency to win big, 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 big and lose even bigger. So they just feel that it is really necessary to make sure that that help is out there as well. So anybody out there, if you are new here, you can always call in at 267-737-8031 and ask any questions. If you're struggling, give us what you're struggling with, and through comments and through my experience, my suggestions, I will freely share with you. Our comments are usually, the people in our comments are usually pretty good with, also sharing their experience, sharing their suggestions as well. So we are here every Friday night from 9 p.m. to 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, because I do know that we have people all over that are tuning in. They are actually finding us while they're just going through YouTube. They stumble upon us as a live, and some people stay, some people don't have somebody that is struggling, or they're not ready for it. And if you're not ready, you're more than welcome to come hang out with us and just listen. And we're not telling you to stop doing what you're doing. We're just telling you that we're here when you're ready and to help provide any resources that we possibly can give you. So that's why we're here. That's why I do what I do, because I know where I was when it happened with our loved one. And when I was younger, I didn't get the education. I didn't care to. I had a lot of resentment towards it. So, a lot of judgment. And when it hits so close to home, even though it was very close to my home, it was, my father, it's just a different situation when it's your son or your daughter, your spouse. It's, it's such a different, it's just such a different, I don't know, feeling. You just really are hit like you slammed into a wall. It just knocks the air out of you. It knocks all your sense out of you, because you start, beating yourself up. What did I do? How did I do this? How did I let this happen? And you just don't think clearly enough. So just keep that in mind, that we're always here. We're always available. And when we're not here, we're always available on the phone line. And nothing is dumb. No question is stupid. And no feeling is stupid. A lot of people that come into our meetings, it's just crazy. Like when in the beginning, when I'm there and I listen to people say out loud what I may have been thinking the whole time, and my mouth drops, like, oh my gosh, they actually said that out loud. I can't believe that. You're not alone. That's where you know that you're in the right place. You know that you're going to get the support and the help that you need at that moment, because there's so many times that thoughts come into your head and you think, how can I possibly think that? How can I possibly do that? But it's what happens. And to hear somebody say it out loud is just so helpful, because it's almost like you can breathe. It's like they're putting oxygen through you when you hear those words out loud. And the same with somebody going through recovery. I'm sure it's the same thing. I'm sure, they go in thinking that, it only happened to them. And when you're sitting in a meeting and you hear speakers and they're saying the same thing, that you're thinking you're the only one going through it, you realize you're not alone, and that there is somebody that is doing the right thing and getting their life together, and you wanting that for yourself. That's what makes meetings and support so important too. Following the right path, and that's what it is. Working the steps. We touch on the steps. We used to touch on the steps an awful lot, and just like somebody in recovery from substance or alcohol, you have the 12-step program. And people can tend to be turned off by that because there's a lot of God reference in that. But it's trying to learn to separate the God to spirit, and take the religion out of it and put the spirituality into it so that you can move forward and find the strength that you need to get going. So that's important. That's a real important tool. And just like those in recovery doing the 12-step through alcohol or drugs, we as family members also through the Nar-Anon and Al-Anon program have the 12-step program. And it helps us. It helps us get stronger. It helps us work on ourselves. It helps us stay where we need to stay. But I like to add, the Beyond Addiction, the CRAFT program, and the Smart Recovery program because, the positive reinforcement to our loved ones is so, so, so needed and so important for our loved ones to move forward and get better with their life and make right choices. If we just keep putting those boundaries up, those walls up, and, bringing the negative in, it's not going to help them get any better anytime soon. So another good point is if you have been diagnosed with any type of mental illness, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's bipolar, schizophrenia, anything like that, it's so important that on top of the alcohol and drug recovery process, that once you get through that rehab program, that you're set up with somebody that you can talk to. And if it's depression, if it's anxiety, seek the help of a therapist that works on tools to help you move through life and handle life's choices and handle life's shit that hits the fan so often every day, versus taking a pill and getting you through that. You may need that support, but working with a doctor is the most important way to do that. If you're schizophrenic, you bipolar, anything like that, medications are needed. And to take those medications, it's very important that you are set up into a very strong recovery support system. That's very important to make sure that you're handling your recovery from drugs and alcohol, but getting the mental health that you need. And unfortunately, may need to take some medications, and be fortunate enough to know that there are medications out there that you can take, and as long as you're taking them as prescribed, that will help you get further in your recovery process. So that's important. We only have a couple minutes left, guys. If you want to call in, you have 2 minutes. That's it. And then we'll be back here next Friday, 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. to 10:30. And really, if you need help with anything, don't forget, call me. I'm available. This Wednesday at the Livingston Bensalem campus will be Dana Cohen. She will be doing the family education. On Monday nights, she does the family education is available to anybody in the community. So if you're in the Bensalem area, you can go in. Her meetings start at 6:30 p.m. It's in the Chapman Building, first building on your left, which is where we also meet on the opposite Wednesday. She does the first and third. We do the second and fourth family support. So check her out. education is key. Education is the tool that gets us where we need to be. Eric, love you. Mama Static. Have a good week. Have a good weekend, guys. Rain is expected here. Hopefully you can be out there with your families and enjoy quality time if your loved one is still out there and active. Hopefully by next year they can be part of the family barbecue or just the family trip, whatever it is that you do as a family. With that being said, everybody, have a great week. We will see you here next Friday, 9 p.m. to 10:30. Peace out, everybody.